Okay. Alrighty. Okay, let's try something. Okay. There we go. Okay. Hello and welcome to this week's Sonic Cinema Movie Chat. My name is Brian Scuttle. My written work, as always, can be found at www.sonic-cinema.com. I just uploaded a new episode of the Sonic Cinema podcast this morning. It is about the music of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so I hope you check that out. In August, we have some pretty big dives into some pretty great filmmakers coming up, and I hope you check out the podcast there. You can find it on Apple, Google, Spotify, as well as the Sonic Cinema Podcast YouTube channel. If you miss a live stream, I am uploading them onto the Sonic Cinema Podcast YouTube channel, as well as trying to put highlights here at Twitch to hopefully get some viewers here. Joining me tonight is Simon from the Extra Features podcast, and thank you very much for joining me.
Hey man, welcome for having me. I'm so excited to be here. It's nice to meet a fellow podcaster occasionally.
Yeah, and it's nice to meet you too. It's funny, we actually have a mutual Facebook friend, at least, in Chad Meisenheimer.
Oh, so Chad is awesome, man.
Yeah, and we've commented on some of the same posts, I believe, over the years. But it's nice to finally put a face to an individual.
Oh, hold on. Chad will be upset. So if anybody's listening wants to check out Chad, he does a show on my network called 20 Minutes with Chad. So I'm done, Chad. You got your shout out. You're done talking about you.
Yeah. And I need to have him back on the podcast, actually, because it's been a couple of years. But it's good to talk to you. And the first thing I wanted to ask you is, how did you what inspired you to start to podcasts about movies?
I guess I'm gonna have to get into my profession. I'm a mailman, so I walk around all day, and I used to listen to music. And I just one day got bored of listening to the same music over and over and over again, and I heard something about a podcast. This is going back about 15 years ago. And lucky for me that April, my birthday is, my wife bought me an iPod, the original second series iPods. So then I just started looking for podcasting. I started listening to these people. I was listening to Kevin Smith when it first came out, Comic Geek Speak, and a couple movie podcasts. I'm like, I can do this. So one crazy winter in the winter, I got myself a Mac and phoned my buddy Kevin and said, look, I have children. They need to know what I think about movies because all we do is discuss movies. Let's make a podcast. So it's over a course of about 5 hours of us trying to figure out Audacity. We got our first show out, and it's been about 14 years now. And so that's how we pretty much started, that I wanted my children to know what I think about everything. And so they have something to listen to for me. So 14 years of shows to listen to, kids. Hope you like them.
Wow, 14 years. That, it's funny. I've been writing about films for over 20, and Sonic Cinema has been online since 2004. But I mean, so it's funny. My friends and I actually did, inspired by a Roger Ebert article on like Yahoo Internet Life. He talked about the idea of people doing fan commentaries and stuff like that. And this was when audio commentaries on DVDs and Blu-rays or DVDs at the time were a big thing. And some friends of mine just started to do that. And we focused mainly on bigger films and movies that people were familiar with. And then a few years ago, I just kind of, a friend of mine and I actually went to see Kevin Smith live during one of his tours in Atlanta, and he was talking about his podcasting. And listening to him talk about that made me realize that it's like, I like the idea of podcasting because you can do something more like we were basically going scene specific with a lot of the audio commentary. So there was a lot of dead space. But with the podcast, it's like I like that you're not wedded to having to sync up with film or anything like that. You could basically just go stream of consciousness as well as keep things a bit tighter as far as the overall discussion. And that's basically how I decided to start the podcast. And basically I've branched out into doing interviews. I've branched out into talking with other film critics and filmmakers. And it's just been a lot of fun to be able to do that. What is it about podcasting that you kind of most enjoy?
For me, my show is me hanging out with my friends. So it's literally something I would have
Mm,
normally done over dinner, but now we just record it and we actually make a list of things. So it makes me see movies I've never seen. So we all
yeah.
make lists every week and that. And doing the interview portion of my show, I love meeting creators. I guess you do too. And I really enjoy
Mhm.
asking them questions that I don't find are answered on DVD commentaries. Like, you would know a question like, why did you use that shot selection? What amount of blood mix do you use? What makeup do you? Those
Mhm.
things fascinate me that never come up on DVD commentaries.
Yeah. No, it's a lot of fun to sort of try to get into filmmakers' stream of consciousness when it comes to making their specific films. And it's like when I covered the Atlanta Film Festival earlier this year, and it was funny because of the fact that a couple of the documentaries that I covered during that, like I got a chance to interview the filmmakers, and it was fascinating to be able to. It was funny because one of them, when I mentioned, sort of something that I noticed in the way they were using like reenactments and stuff like that, and now versus how they're typically used in documentaries, it really did kind of they even mentioned that, like, wow, that's something that it's like you were watching with us during the post production process and like the decision making process of that, and being able to tap into that type of thing when it comes to filmmakers choices is really fascinating to do. Sorry. um
No, no problem.
we're
I do.
we're we're both mesmerized by the cat over my
The cat's
shoulder.
doing great.
What
Hold
are
on. Hold
some
on. Our listeners need to know, what is the cat's name?
Okay, so this cat is Diamond. We actually, my wife and I actually have four cats. You might see a couple of other ones jump in here. They have a tendency to do that. But yes, this was Diamond, and it's funny because of the fact that we were talking before we went live that I've been gone all day. I was working all day, and I went to go see the new M Night Shyamalan movie, and it's like you had all day without me around to get all this energy out of you. What is going on? And she's just jumping up to the walls, jumping on the couch, and all of that stuff. And yeah, now I guess she's finally worn out. But who are some of the filmmakers, as far as you're watching, that you've been kind of most excited to discover?
Sorry, I mean, like right now or stuff I finished. Like, I mean, I think Catherine Bigelow is so underrated. I
Mm-hmm.
think filmmaker. I mean, we're this week on my show, we're doing our last Catherine Bigelow film. I also think that new people need to be watched. Ron Kar Wai, I do not understand why American audience do not know who this guy is.
Yeah. Well, it's because of the fact that we have an aversion to movies with subtitles.
Well, it's
That's
ridiculous.
basically one.
Watch
Yeah,
Ron Kar Wai movies.
yeah. I will admit I'm a bit embarrassed to admit that this year was the first time I had seen In the Mood for Love. I'd seen a few other Wong Kar Wai films before, but yeah, I never got In the Mood for Love. But it's funny, I actually ended up covering it in different aspects for two different podcast records. And so it was great to be able to watch it for the first time and really start to appreciate that movie. And it does make me want to, because I'd seen Chungking Express many years ago. This was like when it first came out in the States, and then I had seen 2046. I had seen his I'd seen Eros, which he had an episode in, and I'd seen I'd forgotten he had done the Grandmaster. I'd completely forgotten he had done the Grandmaster. But yeah, so it was great. But it was great to be able to finally catch up with In the Mood for Love and to be able to talk about that. And yeah, it's so tempting to get that One Car Away box that Criterion just put out, but it's like, especially now that it's like 50% off this month. But it's like, oh, can I really justify that right now? I don't
Yes, you can.
not necessarily with everything else I've gotten, but you know.
My argument is you have a poster behind you that says Vertigo. I mean, do people actually go back and watch, other than film people like ourselves, watches silent films and see the origins of those films? Because you'll see them in the Logger and those kind of
Yeah.
films, or Jamaica Inn. You'll see that early suspense stuff in those films, but nobody talks about them.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it's no, that is an excellent question. I mean, the sad thing, it's like you do wonder with and it's one of the big things in the discussion of streaming. All of these streaming services, you would hope that basically everything would be available for everybody, but obviously it's not true. And yeah, I mean, especially with silent film. I mean, if you want older films, well curated, I think Criterion Channel and even HBO Max have probably the best collections of classic movies that are curated online. But yeah, I mean, unfortunately it's like I went to Vertigo, one of the Fathom events they did for Vertigo a few years ago when it was 60 years old, and there were a handful of people there. I mean, but I went because I had missed it during the 1996 restoration, and I was excited to finally see it on the big screen. It was absolutely fantastic. But I mean, I had seen it so many times on video and DVD and Blu-ray that it's like I practically know the movie by heart. But yeah, it's I it'd be great that if like audiences would, this is something that I actually sort of got into on a blog over a few months ago. It was in response to the Scorsese article he penned for Harper's, I think, over earlier, where he was criticizing the use of the word content to refer to movies and stuff like that and streaming services. And he talked about Federico Fellini. And one of the things I wrote in response to that, and it wasn't just in response to that, it was in response to his comments about Marvel movies and stuff like that a few years ago, where it's like, it'd be great. It'd be one thing if studios like Disney, when they get somebody like, Ryan Coogler to direct Black Panther, it would be great. Now, granted, obviously one of his best known films is Creed, but it would also be great, well, if they would like, hey, you know what? If you liked, Black Panther, here's another movie in Fruitvale Station that Ryan Coogler did. And with Wonder Woman, it's like, oh well, Patty Jenkins started with Monster, which is an Oscar winner, and it's like, but they're always eventually sold on as from their blockbusters. It's never the movies that they start out with, which is a shame. I mean, I understand from a marketing standpoint, but it's really frustrating from a standpoint of a somebody who loves movies and kind of and just really appreciates sort of going backwards in time to like how these filmmakers kind of got started.
But I think that's important. I really think if you're going to
Yeah.
be a true film watcher, you need to go back to the origins of film. You need to watch Keaton. You need to watch Chaplin. You need to watch these guys and understand where the stuff came from. You need to see Birth of a Nation. You got
Mhm.
to do it. Why? Because that's where it started. You cannot tell me Gold Rush is not good.
Yeah.
I
No.
mean, it's
I mean,
brilliant.
yeah, I mean once I got into silent comedy and especially with Chaplin and Keaton, it's like I really did start to go more into silent movies. And yeah, I mean they are a wellspring. I mean, even as difficult as it is to watch the second half of Birth of a Nation, it's still an important creative landmark. And it's like the first part of the movie is actually pretty it's a well told story. The problem is the story goes to places that are just kind of reprehensible morally speaking nowadays.
But that's a lot of films that we watch. You can't
Oh
go do
yeah.
stuff they did in the
Yeah.
80s.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, and the 80s in particular are a fascinating decade to watch because of the fact that it's like you look at like teen movies and teen comedies and horror movies and from that era, and it's like you just there are times where it's like you just kind of wonder what the hell people were thinking. But at the same time, they're also like I was one of my favorite podcasts was the 80s All Over podcast, and it sucks that they weren't able to get to the finish line. But given how many movies started to come out month after month, it just became overwhelming. But like there are movies that like I never really was familiar with for one reason or another, like The World According to Garp, or Ghost Story, or Dead and Buried, and other movies like that. And there were other movies that I had kind of like had on the shelf or the metaphorical shelf of I'll get to them at some point, like Reds and Ordinary People and stuff. But I finally was inspired to watch them because of that, and it's like, you know what? Yeah, these are really good damn movies.
So, do you feel, since you just brought it up, do you still have films on your list you need to watch? I'll
Oh
give
God,
one
yes.
away that on my list. I've never seen Dinner with Andre, and I
Neither
get
have I.
ridiculed.
No.
And it's on my list. I actually sat down. I suggest everybody do this. I made a list of 44 films I need to watch by December,
Oh
and it's on.
wow.
So I've got two done so far. So I have 42 to go. It'll be done. But my dinner was that's why I make myself to watch those films. So I
Yeah.
just make a list, say this is what I'm watching.
No, it's funny. And I last week, yeah, I think it was last week. I actually just did a live stream on blind buys that I've gotten because I've really gotten into blind buys, and especially with Criterion during their sales, I have had a tendency to blind buy movies, or at least get movies where I think I've seen clips and stuff like that, where I don't think I've seen the entire thing. And so, oh God, yes, I have a ton of movies that I want to watch that I haven't had a chance to watch. Just trying to knock some off. Well, I mean, basically, so I got that Bruce Lee set that came out last year. I still haven't dug into that. I finally watched Beyond the Valley of the Dolls last year or a few months ago. That is such a weird damn movie. But it's funny because of the fact that if you've ever seen Life Itself, the Roger Ebert documentary, they explain it's like, well, you kind of see where Roger Ebert could have written Beyond the Valley of the Dolls with Russ Meyer. And it's like, but the thing that I found so fascinating about that one is that I know one of Ebert's favorite movies is La Dolce Vita. And he is and I couldn't help but think of Beyond the Valley of the Dolls as something that maybe was sort of like his perverse their riff on La Dolce Vita, and sort of showing that and sort of showing the sort of the American version of what that type of lifestyle is.
So I got a question. When I go to a garage sale, that's usually where I would find, I guess, a blind buy. But my argument
Yeah,
is I have to see it. If it's 50 cents and I haven't seen it, I got to pick it up. Is that a blind buy or is that just my brain telling
yeah,
me I need to watch
yeah.
things?
I no, I would say it's a blind buy, because I mean it basically the idea is it's a movie that you're curious about that you've never seen before, and you're taking the chance
Mhm.
on purchasing it before you've seen it. But I mean, technically, if you go by that logic, technically every movie you see for the first time is a blind purchase if you purchase a ticket for it. But I mean, specifically, I think including it in your movie collection is probably the best example of that, because more than just seeing a movie in a theater, because you can always walk out of a theater, like you're actually taking a chance on saying, I think this movie is going to be worth putting in my collection sight unseen.
I'm going to let you in a secret. I don't have a collection anymore.
Really?
Any movie I have in my house is a movie I haven't seen.
Oh wow.
I stopped
That's
collecting movies. I watch everything though. I have very few. I lie. I do have a copy of Chasing Amy Criterion because I found it at a yard sale.
yeah.
It's just sitting on my shelf. And that's the only film I probably still had for years. But no, I've
Oh
stopped
wow.
collecting films. I got rid of everything years ago. I have 5 boxes going tomorrow to drop off at the pawn shop. I'm done. I watch
Oh
them and I
wow.
move them along. I find if I need something, I can find it on streaming,
Yeah.
usually. I mean,
Yeah.
nobody's coming to my house to watch some random Burt Reynolds film that I picked up at the yard sale for 50 cents. I mean,
yeah.
that's just for me because I'm compulsive and I need to see it because I
Mhm.
haven't seen it. But yeah, I do not have a film collection anymore.
Interesting. No, I mean, and the thing the thing is, I mean, I probably have too much of a collection, because it's like chances are there are so many movies that even I've seen that it's like, am I really ever going to watch this movie again? And like you said, I mean, it's available on streaming, but the thing I like about the physical collection is the idea that if something goes off of streaming and I want to see it, I have it sitting on the shelf. So I can just put in whatever player I'm putting it in and watch it there.
But
And that's my thinking of it, still having a collection.
see, I'm going to get in trouble again. I very rarely watch movies twice. I'm not saying I haven't seen
Hmm.
movies twice, but very
Yeah.
rarely. So for me to hit about 400 to 450 new films a year, I've
Yeah.
almost stopped rewatching things. I'm not saying I wouldn't watch, oh, Vertigo's on. Of course I'm going to watch a bit of Vertigo if it's on. I mean, I
Yeah.
just may not watch the whole thing because I've seen it. Like, like I've seen Major League 27 times. I have a story behind that, but that's for another show. But that's my argument now. There's too much discovery I have. Like Shiva
Yeah.
Baby this summer was a great discovery. I want to see more for this
Hmm.
filmmaker. I quite like that
Yeah.
film, but it was a film that's getting no praise to me other than people like
Yeah.
ourselves that actually put the time into it.
Hmm. Well, and this year, and actually, I mean, honestly, that's not a in that way. Your form of a quote unquote collection in terms of just movies that you haven't seen before makes all the sense in the world, because of the fact that you're if you aren't necessarily watching movies more than once, or rewatching movies, then it does make sense not to necessarily have copies of ones that you've seen over the years. That and that is a fascinating way of looking at. But yeah, I mean, it's this year has been very interesting because of the fact that one of the things I loved about last year is because the lack of major studio product really shined a light on independent films. And now, granted, some of those independent films are movies from like Searchlight or Focus Features, ones that are like subservient to a larger corporation. But at the same time, it's like you also had like I watched a ton of movies from Neon and IFC and other independent studios where it's like, those were the movies that kept me going last year, you know, when nothing else was coming out.
I find maybe last year was a good year of discovery for me because I cleaned out the AFI list. I'm done. I watched all
Yeah.
100, not in a year. I'm now on the Sight and Sound list. So I really took that time to watch some Tarkovsky, watch some Fellini,
Yeah.
finish off my Chaplin films. And I found
Hmm.
that was a good year for me to do that stuff because then I didn't
Yeah.
have excuse now not to watch them. Oh, I got to watch old
Hmm.
this week. I can't watch Tarkovsky. That's old, but I have to watch this stuff now.
Yeah.
And now I'm
Yeah.
finding as the summer is hit, and maybe you're having the same problem, I don't have time for older stuff. They're
Yeah.
dumping so much out right now.
Well, and that's part of why for Sonic Cinema, that's part of why I started to do a movie a week, like a decade ago, where it's like I would watch older movies, and some of them were ones that I had seen that I just had never reviewed before, but also a lot of them became like newer ones that I hadn't seen before. But the difference is they were all older ones from the stuff that I'm reviewing on a regular basis that I see in theaters. And that has been really great as far as not only allowing me to shine a light on movies that I've always really loved and filmmakers I've always really loved, because I mean that's honestly how I'd seen all of Tarkovsky's films before because I love Tarkovsky, but I hadn't reviewed all of them yet. So it's like each year, it's like I would review one Tarkovsky, one Kurosawa, one Bergman, one Truffaut, and yeah, it's just been and and a lot of those are ones I hadn't seen before. So it's been really terrific to see more of these filmmakers that I've really come to love over the years.
Now, I have a question for you. Since we're bringing up Meisenheimer, he asked me this question. What filmmaker do you think under 40 is going to be the next thing? And the only name I could come up with was I came up with three. Sean Baker, he said nobody knows who he is. I said Chloe Zhao,
Yeah.
he doesn't like her, so he dismissed her. And Ryan Coogler was the only third one I could come up with. Can you come up with somebody who's going to bring us be the next Quentin Tarantino or something like that? Name.
The next Tarantino, that's a tough one because I mean, are you talking about filmmaker? Are you basically are I obvious? You're not talking about the aesthetic of Tarantino. You're just talking about the next big sort of Sundance phenomenon.
Correct. And Coogler's the only thing I can
Um,
think of.
yeah, I mean, Kugler is. I mean, and I mean, he's. It'll be interesting to see if because I mean, I know he's got Black Panther 2 coming out. It'll be interesting, and I think he's already setting up other stuff at other studios. I mean, he was one of the producers of the new Space Jam movie, but it's really interesting to wonder if a filmmaker like him, after making those big movies, can make the jump back to smaller movies. Kugler, I think, is a good example. I actually do think Zhao is a good example. I need to catch more of her independent work before Eternals comes out. But yeah, that's a tough call, and the reason is the exact same reason you says, because of the fact that it's like not as many people are familiar with her, with the smaller filmmakers. And it's a shame that like even as great a year as last year was for like independent films to really kind of get discovered in the wake of the major studios not really having anything to present. um at the same time, there are films of mine, like, or there are films that I adored, like Sound of Metal and She Dies Tomorrow, which I absolutely loved and were blown away by. I mean, Grand Sound Metal got Oscar nominations, but at the same time, it's like, is anybody talking about that filmmaker and what he's going to do next? Not really.
Okay. First off, I did not enjoy at all She Dies Tomorrow. I know a lot of people love that film. I didn't. But we've
Yeah.
never mentioned Emerald Fennell. I know she only has one film with this promising
Mhm.
young woman, but I thought it was a pretty solid film. I think she might be a
Yeah.
name we've never considered. And Sound of Metal to me was robbed. I still think it deserved Best Picture.
Yeah, same here. It was my top choice for best picture last year, and I would have loved to have seen Riz Ahmed and Paul Raci both win Oscars for their performances. They were just absolutely stunning in that movie. But no, I mean she is a good possibility. Especially because of the fact that, I mean, with Promising Young Woman, it's focused, so it's like she has a bit more weight around it than somebody. I mean, Grant Neon is starting to do very well, and IFC is always going to be like IFC as far as being able to release stuff, but it's like Focus is still relatively, sort of just on the cusp of being like a mini major. But I mean, they've got a pretty good track record going back to Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind and Brokeback Mountain and all of that. Um, yeah, it's no, and I completely understand why people don't like She Dies Tomorrow. I mean, for me, it just captured a lot on a very personal level that I just connected with immediately. And so, but again, it's one of those things where it's like Tarkovsky. I completely understand people don't get into Tarkovsky because he is a hard sit at times.
Oh, I have to disagree. They don't appreciate amazing cinematography.
Yeah.
There's nothing like a
Well, and it's
Tarkovsky
not
film.
just.
Sorry,
Oh no, there isn't.
I just want to say I don't care if you like the storyline, but I've never seen anything like it. Every time I watch one of his
Yeah,
films, there's something nobody's ever done that before.
yeah. Well, it blew my mind because I've been a huge fan of Stalker since I first saw it in '97, and the thing that blew my mind a few years ago when I was like researching, when I was doing some research for a podcast I was doing on Tarkovsky, and it was like I think there were like less than 20 cuts in that movie, and it was just long tracking shots, and it's like I'd never noticed that before. It's like I'd seen that movie dozens of times. I had never noticed that before, and it's just absolutely, that movie in particular is absolutely beautiful. I mean, that Andrei Rublev and Mirror have always been my three favorites of his. And I'm so glad Criterion finally got Mirror. I actually saw the restoration at a drive-in presentation that the Art House in Atlanta was doing,
Uh,
and it is so beautiful. It is so beautiful. And so as soon as they announced the Criterion for this month, it's like, well, I'm definitely getting that one.
Now, you're ordering all these films and you're discussing
Yes.
blind buys and this and that. Now, when Mirror comes in, you've seen Mirror a few times. When are you going to
Yeah.
watch it? Like, or you just have it there to say, "Look, I have Mirror in my collection."
That is an excellent question. And the thing is, it's like I think the thing with Mirror right now is the fact that it's like it completes my Tarkovsky collection on Blu-ray. I now have Blu-rays of all of his. The But yeah, the question is to when I'm eventually going to watch that Blu-ray. It is a completely valid one, and I mean, it's for me, I kind of have to be in a certain headspace to watch Tarkovsky,
I agree.
because he's certainly not a light filmmaker, but at the same time, I mean, there are moments in his movies that are just really, there are movie parts in his movies that are just really sneakily entertaining. Like, there are so many sequences in Rublev that like are just fascinating to watch. and fascinating for how entertaining they are, even though he's still playing up the drama of it. And it's he's a filmmaker that as soon as I saw Stalker for the first time, and that was my first Tarkovsky, like I knew I had to seek out everything else that he did. And once I did, I knew he was a filmmaker I was going to be watching for the rest of my life.
So, when you do, as a collector, do you set yourself a budget? There's something I've never asked anybody.
um, I need to, if that kind of answers your question. I do try. I do try to. This month, admittedly, I went a bit hog wild on some of them. But there were also movies that like I've wanted the Criterion of the Before trilogy for a while because I adore those movies. I saw House for the first time last year, and I'm like, oh, I've got to add that to the collection. That's just such a good, crazy ass horror movie. But then there are other movies that it's like you just see in the moments, like, you know what? Yeah, I'm a fan of this filmmaker. Like The Thin Blue Line by Errol Morris. It's like I think I've seen that like 3 times in my life, but it's like, you know what? I am basically an Errol Morris fan because I've got Gates of Heaven, Vernon, Florida, Brief History of Time, and Fog of War in my collection. Like, yeah, I should probably, probably wouldn't hurt to have Thin Blue Line either. But again, it goes to a question of like, when am I going to watch all of these? And covering film festivals and watching like 100 plus, 200 plus, like last year it got up to 400 between the 3 film festivals and everything else I watched. And it's like, oh my God, it was just crazy. But that's sort of why I've tried to set myself to like with the repertory reviews, with the movie week, trying to see stuff that's new to me so I can watch these things for the first time. But yeah, I should have more of a budget than I really do. Admittedly.
It's all good. I don't know. Like I said, I'm the garage sale guy. Literally, I go to every garage sale I see just looking for weird films I've never seen.
Yeah.
Like, I got the hookup I found this year, loved it. I mean, and I randomly found that on a Facebook Marketplace ad saying, free movies show up at 3 o'clock. So I show up at the guy's house at 3 o'clock and he handed me 3 tubs of movies, boxes.
Wow.
And I just pulled out everything I hadn't seen, got rid of everything else, and I got this. I'm like, this is really good. Never heard of it.
Nice.
So then, every Saturday I try to get out in the morning and get to a couple sales. If there's something near me, I just go for a drive sometimes. And I hit all my local thrift stores just looking for titles I haven't heard of.
Yeah. Who are some of the filmmakers that you've really connected to over the years?
Oh, that's a tough. Ooh. Well, Quentin's going to have to be on the list. Gareth Edwards, I will say, is moving up on that list immensely lately. Who have I connected with? Kurosawa. He just pulls emotion out of me every time I watch one of his films. It's like literally he puts his hand in me and just rips something out of me every film. And I would say I've connected with Kurosawa a lot. I'm trying to. Billy Wilder does the same thing. I love his writing.
Yeah.
I mean, and obviously Hitchcock just does things for me. So, I mean, those are the masters. I mean, newer people, I think Emerald Fennell and me are going to have a long-lasting relationship. I definitely think I see that coming. Cougar, I'm hit and miss on. I think he's a filmmaker I love or hate. And I got to give love for Kevin Feige. Like, he definitely hits that little kid in me every time. Yourself?
So, I let's see. As far as like recent, sort of recent discoveries, I mean that is the big question. I mean, Kurosawa, Truffaut is one I absolutely adore. I love his work whenever I get a chance to watch it for the first time. Kurosawa is another, but yeah, Kurosawa is fantastic. I finally watched The Idiot last year for the first time, and I was really surprised. I was pleasantly surprised by how much that one engaged me as much as it did. Um, let's see, trying to.
And we keep
That's
forgetting
God.
Godard.
That's.
Godard would be on my list too.
Mm, I've not gotten as much into Godard yet.
I'm getting
I
there.
really do need, yeah, I do need to, but yeah, I haven't gotten into him as much as I should. I do really, it's like I'm a big Edgar Wright fan. I absolutely love the Sparks Brothers. I thought it was
Which I,
so wonderful.
which I will see soon. It's kind of on my list of.
Yeah.
I need to watch it because they have a new film. They got that new. I can't remember the name of it. It's coming out next year. That with the Sparks Brothers did the soundtrack for.
Oh, and Net.
Audition. Annette. That's it. That's what I
Yeah.
wanted to see, the Sparks Brothers film.
Yeah, and I think that's actually coming out next month. On,
okay. Then I'm Sparks Brothers.
Yeah, I think yeah, that's coming out next month. So because it just played Cannes, but yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. After because I'll be honest, it's like I'd heard of Sparks, but I hadn't really listened to a whole lot of their music. But when I saw the Sparks, when I saw the documentary at Sundance, I just absolutely loved it. And one of the things that I love about that is how Edgar Wright was able to make a documentary that also kind of felt like one of his movies. I mean, I think part of it is because of how well I think he uses music in movies. I think the way he uses songs, the way he uses score, it's just, especially in something obviously like Scott Pilgrim and Baby Driver are two great examples of it, but also the Cornetto trilogy. And yeah, I mean Sparks Brothers definitely felt very much of a piece, and I can't wait for Last Night in Soho to come out in October. Um, yeah, I
Now,
want to say Dennis. What's his name? Villanova, that who did
Villeneuve.
Arrival. Yeah,
I
who did
agree.
Arrival
Dude's
and
coming out this year.
yeah, who did
Spider.
Yeah.
What a great film that nobody talks about.
Mhm.
Is it The Spider, the Jake Gyllenhaal movie? Oh, the Spider's at the end of the film. Oh, I
No,
can't remember. The Double. You know the film I'm
um,
talking about.
Enemy.
Enemy.
Yeah,
Fabulous film that nobody ever talks about.
yeah, and then Prisoners was absolutely fantastic.
I agree. Yeah, Dennis, I think he's Canadian. I got to be happy for him.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's like even and the funny thing is, it's like I really admired Blade Runner 2049. I've always been kind of I admired the Blade Runner films more than I love them, but I think he did a really terrific job up just continuing that universe. And yeah, I've not read Dune, but I'm really looking forward to that movie, especially since the trailer came out yesterday. So
I've read all 6 books, and I was so mad at the whatever his name is, Lynch film.
yeah.
I got angry because I love the book so much, and he ruined the book for me.
Oh man. Yeah, I've seen the Lynch film once, but yeah, it's I do really like the soundtrack by Toto, though. I will admit, I do like that soundtrack. But yeah, I mean, I've heard so many. It's funny, there are some people who I know who do like that, and then there are others who are like, no, it just didn't do it for me. I mean, and David Lynch is a filmmaker. It's funny. It's like, to a certain extent, I kind of want to consider him a favorite because of the fact that I do feel like I like a lot of his films. But at the same time, it's like, do I really do I really like a lot of his movies.
Blue Velvet.
See, I really like Mulholland Drive.
Yeah, it's
I
a great
like
film.
I like 2/3 of Inland Empire.
Haven't seen it.
I still need to watch season 3 of Twin Peaks though.
I never finished season 1.
Oh really? And season 1's like 8
Couldn't do it.
episodes.
I
That's saying
tried-
something.
I tried once. I just don't like them. I don't get into
Yeah.
this stuff.
Yeah. No, I mean it's certainly a weird thing. I mean, yeah, part of the reason why I'm so surprised by the fact that you couldn't even get through season 1 is that it's not even the most bizarre part of that series. Like the second half of season 2 is where it gets really crazy. But no, I mean it's like I love the Elephant Man. I really like Eraserhead, or I really admire Eraserhead.
I'll give you that.
Yeah. I do really want to rewatch Wild at Heart because I did really like that, and I like
Wild at Heart,
and I do like Nicolas Cage. I think what's your take on the overall perception of Nicolas Cage?
Sorry, I think you asked me what I think of Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
Sorry, got it.
Yeah.
I love early Cage. I think he was a wonderful actor. Now I think he's
Mhm.
just looking for money. But I did like Wally World or whatever that just came out when he's in the
Yeah.
arcade.
Yeah.
I thought that was good. I feel bad for Nicolas Cage. I think he's got pigeonholed in these terrible roles, but he must get paid good money for them because he keeps bringing them out. Like Pig just came out, which I don't know if I'm going to see.
I will say Pig is really fantastic. I do
then
think
I will watch Pig.
I do think Pig is probably one of his best performances. It's
Okay,
not
I'm
it's
in.
not it's not the movie you may think. It's certainly not the movie that Neon is. The trailer for Neon sort of implies, but I really do love the film in the way it sort of tweaks our perception of what Nicolas Cage is, and then like does something very different with him. Did you see the Werner Herzog Bad Lieutenant he did?
Yes, long
Yeah.
time ago.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta let your viewers on a secret. I do not watch trailers. I have not seen a trailer since Talladega Nights.
I'll admit it's like unless it's in the movie theater, for the most part, I will not either. I will
I
occasionally
will cover
watch
my
one at home.
eyes.
Oh,
No.
really?
I cover my eyes. I have no idea, but I can call. My friends laugh at me in the theater because I tell them what the trailer is. Who starts? I call the movie out, then I cover it. The friends of my show make fun of me. I do not watch trailers. I can tell you nothing about what a movie because I'm going to watch it.
Yeah.
So I watch, like you, a lot of new releases. So I don't care what. Just want to know who's in it. I'll watch it
Yeah.
based on that.
Yeah, I mean, I watch fewer and fewer trailers nowadays. Mainly because of the fact that it's like I do like going in being surprised. Like, I mean, that's one of the things, and to a certain extent, there are movies that give away too much in the trailers.
So hence, when you join me and go garage sale blind buying, there
Yeah.
are no trailers. So you're definitely blind buying much more than anybody else blind buys.
Oh yeah,
I mean, I just pick up a movie. Like I saw something the other day. I can't blanking, but it had Brandon Gleeson and Kim Cattrall in it. Tiger Eye, Tiger Tail, or Tiger Eye. No, but I've never heard of it. It was an Irish film thing. Okay, let's watch it. Terrible film, absolutely
Yeah.
terrible. But I just wanted to watch it. I said, okay, Kim
Yeah.
Cattrall's in. I know her. I know him.
Mhm.
But you know what? That's why I like blind buys for 50 cents. You're not upset.
Yeah,
And it goes into the bin and it's gone.
yeah. No, that's what's been probably of the films that you blind buy. What been some of your most pleasant surprises that you've watched?
I got the hookup, and I just told you. I wish I. See, now you put me on the spot. I'm gonna have to hold on. Ask me another question. I'll come back. I'm gonna pull up my
Okay.
phone and look at what I've watched recently, and then I can probably give you a better answer. I mean, it's more, I guess my answer is I usually don't get surprised. It's usually,
Yeah.
I like to see, like, who's in them? Like, how many people you know are Kim Cattrall completists? Nobody is.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's like, oh, Kim Cattrall's in this. Or a Burt Reynolds film from HBO I'd never heard of the other year. I found that, like, with Saffron Burrows. I mean,
Hmm.
nobody's blind buying that. It's 50 cents. Of course
Yeah.
I'm going to watch it. Like, I'm looking on my shelf now. Like, I blind bought years ago a full set of Buster Keaton. Like,
Oh,
somebody was
nice.
dumping of, like, earlier, and I picked up everything Buster Keaton did. So that was a blind buy for me. But it
Oh,
had
man.
one short, one thing, and the woman
Hmm.
basically gave me 20 DVDs for $4. And here, just take them all.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, I get a lot of weird kung fu films. I get a lot of weird horror films.
Hmm.
I have a Billy Connolly box set I need to watch. I paid $1 for 3 films. So it's
Hmm.
not so much in the sense that I find good films, but I just find things that nobody else is watching. So I kind of enjoy
Yeah.
that. So when I can come on your show, I'm like, yeah, you get to watch I Got the Hookup. You've never heard of that. And it's a solid comedy and from those urban 90 films.
Okay.
You know, like, and
Oh,
I
I
got a
think I
whole
have
box.
heard. I think
But
I
there's a
have heard of
sequel
that,
too.
actually.
But it's an excellent film. I'm like, why have I never heard of this? So that's
Yeah.
probably the one that like, and things like that. Like you'll obviously find a Children of the Corn 8 in the box, and you gotta pick up Children of the Corn 8 because then you got a reason to pick up watch 1 to 7 when you find them. So blind buys, that kind of thing. If I could walk over to my shelf and grab you a pile, I'd like literally show you. Like I find a lot of oh, I'm trying to remember his name. See, it's in the box over there. You talk, I'll be right back and I'll grab you some stuff. That'll be easier for me.
Okay. Oh, blind buying Buster Keaton is really a treat, especially his short films. I definitely need to get more into short films. I think I'm mostly done with the features, but yeah, Buster Keaton's short films are definitely ones that I need to catch up on. So
Okay, since you
yeah.
asked me, I just like something like Desperate Hours, Return to Nim Island, The Fly with David Cronenberg, The Squeeze. Like, I've never heard of these movies. Jack Nicholson, Little Shop of the Horrors, The Terror, Wild Ride, Romantic Comedy Collection for 50 cents. And come on, Nicole Eggert, A Christmas Proposal, Rob Lowe,
my
A Perfect Day, Nemu, My Best Friend. Like, who can find a Nick Cannon movie for 50 cents? Like, you know, that's what the kind of stuff I blind buy. And to me, this is just garbage cinema I need to watch.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's, for me, that's what cost me
Yeah.
$5. And I mean, that's hours of movie watching for me. And then I can come on your show. Yeah, you know what? That was really good. Like, that movie, My
Yeah.
Best Friend, I'd recommend to you. And you're like, what are you watching?
Mhm.
So to me, that's what blind buys are. You're telling me you're buying Tchaikovsky blind buy. I'm like, that's not a blind buy. You know that's going to be good.
Yeah, that's true. That's
So
no,
that,
you definitely bring up a good point.
that's just my point. My friends think I'm crazy, but literally that's why I go to yard sales looking for stuff that some idiot paid $9.99 for. And I paid 50 cents. And I
Yeah.
literally take it to the pawn shop. They don't want it. I drop it off at my nearest flea market. Here, just take it. I just give it to the charity
Yeah.
shops. They can make their money back. I don't care.
Mhm. Yeah.
So to me, that's a true blind buy.
Mhm. Well,
I
you did
mean,
mention
evidence-
Cronenberg's. You did mention
The Fly.
Cronenberg's The Fly in there, which is
Which I've
pretty
never seen.
terrific film.
Which
Oh,
I've
it's
never
so
seen
good.
it. So I'm just like, for 50 cents, I guess I'm going to have to pick this up. But I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Now, Move My Best Friend, you can't tell me you've ever even heard of this.
No, I cannot
me,
say that I have.
But that's my argument. When these people tell me about blind buys, I'm like, Ron Kai, why in the mood for love? Really? That's a blind buy? You're going to think that's bad?
No,
Like, come
not
on.
really.
It's not going exactly. Oh, look, I bought the
Yeah.
Hitchcock collection on blind buy. Oh, because you haven't seen them? But it's Hitchcock. Get a life. That's not a
Yeah.
blind buy. You go buy something you've never heard of, like A Perfect Day with Rob Lowe. I'm sure it's going to be crappy and terrible, but that's a blind buy. Nobody can tell you anything about it.
Yeah. No, that's other than the fact that Rob Lowe's in it. Yeah.
I mean,
no,
maybe the Rob Lowe completist.
No, that is actually an excellent point, and it's like, yeah, the idea of, yeah, I mean, you do bring up a good point as far as like what most people consider blind buy. A lot of people consider blind buy versus what probably a true blind buy is, which is what you doing, like picking up movies that like literally nobody has heard of or nobody remembers, and yeah, that is, yeah, I mean, that you bring up an excellent point with that.
Well, to me, that's the whole point of movie watching is finding you. I want to be that guy that finds the movie that nobody has seen.
Yeah.
Like Gun Crazy to me, I know it gets a lot of respect now, but when I first saw Gun Crazy, nobody was talking about it. And it just blew
Mhm.
me away. And I'm like, this is a good film. You know,
Yeah.
stuff like that. Like, I think there's so many, like, Black Narcissists. I mean, why didn't somebody pound me the head years ago and go, watch some more Pressburger and
Oh,
Powell films, you dumb dumb?
yeah.
Like, nobody really talks about them. And I'm like, why not? These guys are
Yeah.
geniuses.
Yeah, I watched Black Narcissus for the first time last year, and oh my god, I just absolutely loved it.
And
And yeah, I need to get more into Powell and Pressburger as well. So
Peeping Tom to me gets no respect. And I think it's an amazing
mhm.
film.
Yeah, well, and it's very much, it's one of those movies that you would almost swear is Hitchcock, but isn't quite Hitchcock because it kind of deals with the same genre, some of the same themes and ideas, but the way that they, well, it's Michael Powell only in that one, but yeah, it's just, yeah, that was, I saw that one probably about 15-20 years ago, and yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. But yeah, I mean, I haven't seen Red Shoes. I haven't. There's so many
Oh,
others of theirs that I need to
oh my
see.
God.
Yeah.
Go buy Red Shoes right now.
Hmm.
That's my, if I leave anything and left you an impression, you need to see the Red Shoes.
Okay. I
Absolutely
will
one of the
definitely
most
make sure to do that.
brilliant films I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I think every person that watches films should see the Red Shoes. Is how much I like that.
Excellent.
It's in my top 20 films of all times.
Mm.
And there's another film. Like, have you ever seen like Passion of Joan of Arc, the French film?
It's been a long time since I've watched that, but yeah, yeah. Dreyer's another filmmaker that I definitely need to dig into much more.
I mean, there's another film I think gets no respect other than film people that've seen it. I'm like, this thing's utterly brilliant for what they did for the time. The close-up shots
Hmm.
just blow me away on that film, and people are like, "What film are you talking about?" I'm
Yeah.
like, listen, just because it's not got a fast in front of it doesn't mean you don't have to watch it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I have a question. Have you watched like newer films now? I find they're all adopting the fast generation. We all got to be family. Like Black Widow to me seemed like just Fast Nine, family. I'm like, come on, guys. Enough of the family crap. Let's kill some people.
So I will say about Black Widow, like I overall I thought it was all right. I actually thought the
Me
action
too.
was kind of, I thought the action was actually kind of uninspiring when it comes to Marvel action sequences. But it's funny that you mentioned that because I did actually think when it gets into the character elements about Natasha's family and that connection, that's where the movie really shines. I thought that was where the movie was really good. And it's funny, watching Fast Nine, like that movie overall, I mean, it was fine. Like you can't really take the action sequences seriously, but the fact is, it's like this even more than the eighth one. This one was really missing Paul Walker.
You could tell, could you? The one that
this
can
this
act
one
in
was
this
really
franchise?
missing this one was really missing Paul Walker, and that's it's something I never would have considered watching the first movie. First of all, I wouldn't have considered that this would still be going on after 20 years, but also the idea that you needed both Paul Walker and Vin Diesel to carry this franchise. And I never would have necessarily expected that, but and I mean part of it is because Mia is such a big part of it, and it's like, well, why wouldn't Brian be a part of this too? But it's like, yeah, I will say though, like I love that they had the audacity to say at the end, it's like, if we obey the laws of physics after they've completely annihilated the laws of physics during the other 2 hours of the movie, it was no that movie was so crazy. But I mean, it it should have ended at 7. It really should have ended at 7 when they retired Brian's character. I mean, that's just when it should have ended. Like, they're basically moving on fumes at this point. What have you seen any other of the bigger movies that you've kind of enjoyed or really enjoyed, just gotten interested in recently?
Sorry, I missed half that conversation. Are you talking about this
Oh,
summer or?
just this year in general. Now that movies are starting to come back.
Um, you know, I haven't really liked anything this summer that's been blowing me away other than Shiva Baby is probably my favorite film of the year so far. I'm
Yeah.
just waiting for something to blow me away. I thought Tomorrow More might do it. I thought that might have a shot. I'm like, nope, this is kind of dull. Boss Baby 2 didn't really do it. I don't know why. Space Jam was such a disappointment. I almost cried.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
I
have
actually
you? Sorry, just let me finish on Space. I watched it with my
No,
daughter,
it's fine.
who's is 12 years
Yeah.
old. I'm like, do you know any of these movies? She's like, nope. So I'm hoping the Matrix will save it all for me because I'm like, can you screw up the
Yeah.
Matrix again? Please don't screw up the Matrix.
No, I will say it's like I've never been a huge fan of the Matrix series, but I am very curious to see what this quote unquote reboot of the series is going to be, because I have started to appreciate a bit more than I used to, but at the same time I've also become more of a Wachowski fan over the
Oh,
past decade or
oh,
so, since Speed Racer and Cloud Atlas.
I want to back this up. That scene in the Matrix when he's going into the courthouse, I think it is, and they just show the wall of guns. You can't
Hmm.
beat that.
Yeah.
That to me is the
Yeah.
best Matrix scene ever. I'm like, I'm in. I want to see some mass violence coming, and you did. You know
Hmm.
what? I wish Kurosawa was still alive. I think he could make a Matrix film. I think he would
Yeah.
just blow us away somehow. So, like I
Hmm.
said, I mean, what's going to blow me away? Dune better blow me away.
Yeah.
Eternals with Chloe Zhao better blow me away.
Hmm.
And I'm hoping
Yeah.
something else will blow me away. I'm trying to think, but nothing this summer I've gone, yeah, like Fast 9 was terrible as far as I'm concerned. I'm like another garbage film.
Yeah. I mean,
Now
I
you
think
got me.
my favorite. I mean, honestly, I think my favorite of the big movies this summer's been A Quiet Place 2. I mean,
Yeah,
really,
which
I
was
think that's the
solid.
only one that I've really enjoyed.
I'm just looking at my list for you. Like I just finished an old movie called My Man Godfrey that blew me away.
Oh,
I'd
I've heard
never
of
seen
that.
that.
Yeah,
I
I've
loved
heard
it.
of that. Hmm.
So I'm getting to the point this summer. I'm just treating it like last summer, going, we're not getting everything. And everything's
Yeah.
all over. Like theaters in Canada just opened last week. So I still have yet to be in a movie theater. So
Mm.
maybe that's part of my problem. I'm just better. Because I couldn't see
Yeah.
Black Widow in theaters because I had to watch it at home because they weren't open yet. So
Yeah.
I think this summer is just going to be another disappointing summer. I mean, we're
Hmm.
not getting. I need a Fincher film. I need a Quentin film. I need somebody I love. And I'm
Yeah.
not getting that until Villeneuve comes out or Chloe Zhao comes out. I have to wait.
Hmm.
Maybe Shang-Chi will be the movie of the summer I've been waiting for, but that's going to be September.
Yeah.
I mean, where's
No,
my
it's.
Ghostbusters film?
I think that's November. I think that is
Like,
coming out in November.
that should have been in the summer. When do I want to
Yeah.
sit around with the Ghostbusters? It's in the
Yeah.
summer. I want to sit
Mhm.
with a big bag of popcorn and get my cherry Coke with no ice, and I want to watch Ghostbusters. I don't care if it's a piece of crap. I want to watch it.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what to think of that one yet. I mean, I understand what they're trying to do, and I know part of the hook is Jason Reitman directing it, but at the same time, I don't know. The last trailer for it just didn't really inspire a whole lot of confidence in me. So I'm
See?
just kind of curious what that's going
Stop
to
watching trailers.
do.
I told you they're ruining your movies for you. Go in cold. You don't know anything.
Mhm.
You don't know if the movie's even crap yet. Go watch it. That's why I like
Yeah.
not watching trailers. I'm really telling you guys, people, stop watching them. You don't need to. If it's got somebody you like in it, like Liam Neeson, Ice Road, you've seen enough Liam Neeson movies. You
Yeah.
really don't need a trailer for Ice Road. It's
Mhm.
him in a truck. There'll be action. You'll be fine. Like Marksman, same movie, just he's not in a truck.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying.
Well-
Stop watching trailers.
Okay. I will definitely try to do that. I will definitely try to do that. That
Cold turkey.
it's been it's gonna be hard to do cold turkey, but we'll see. We'll see
You
how
can
we
do it. I've done it for whatever Talladega Nights came out. I've done what, the 20 years now. The Talladega Nights.
15. Yeah.
I've not seen a trailer in 15 years.
Okay. I will definitely give it the old college try. On that note, I think we should kind of be wrapping it up. Before we go though, where can people find you online?
Really easy. www.extrafeatures.ca. We have these really cool t-shirts with our logo on it. We have a show called 20 Minutes with Chad. We have extra features interviews. We have our crazy show about which I have nothing to do with. This blonde could talk about anything. And that's it. We're also available on Spotify, iTunes, and iHeartRadio. And thank you for your time.
Yes, and thank you very much for joining me. It was nice to meet you. It was nice to talk to you. You've really given me a lot to think about tonight.
Thank you, and have a great evening.
And on that note, this is the thank you for joining me on this episode of the Sonic Cinema Movie Chat. You can find us online at www.sonic-cinema.com, wherever you get your podcast for the Sonic Cinema Podcast, including YouTube. And thank you very much.